Well, joining us now is Tyler Rowley. He's a husband, dad. He serves as the president of Servants of Christ for Life, and he joins us today to talk about Because of Our Fathers. Tyler, thanks so much for being with us. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me on.
Hey, we're thrilled that you're joining us. Your book contains essays from 23 contributors, some well-known, some who would be unfamiliar to us, but the common thread is what they really talk about. Can you explain it to me?
Yeah, that's exactly right. What drew my attention to the topic was just being aware of this study that existed. One time my priest sent me a study about this study that was done in Switzerland. It showed the generational transmission of faith, how the faith is passed down from fathers and mothers to their children. And I just remember being blown away by this staggering correlation between the father and that generational transmission of faith to the sons and daughters. I go through the numbers in the book. And then I was driving one day and I heard Father Gerald Murray telling a story about his father. He had just buried his father the week before. And he told this story about how when he was 7 years old, his dad's going to work. And all of a sudden, 7-year-old Father Murray realizes that his dad is going to Mass before he goes to work. And he's just shocked. And he says, why do you go to church every single day? I thought we only had to go on Sunday. And his dad looked back at him and said, I love to be with Christ in the Eucharist every day. And this is just sort of this moment in this 7-year-old's life where he realizes that the faith is much different. Catholicism is much different than what he had learned so far. And it's all because his dad is doing something very serious. So the seriousness of the father projects this seriousness of the faith onto the son. And so I heard that story and I knew about that study. So I just started to call around to people and ask them what their story was. And it was amazing how almost everybody I thought of who was a serious Catholic had a story like Father Murray's, where they could point back to their father especially as being the primary example in their life. And then I was thinking about people in my life. Does this ring true for people in my life? And one after the other, I started to notice that all my family and friends were sort of these spiritual mirrors of their father. So I called around to other people and I put together a list of 23 Catholics, and they tell exactly that, how their fathers led them to Christ. And the book talks about the primary influence of a father over the faith life of his children.
Tyler, November is Religious Education Month, and parishes try to do a good job with catechesis. But when I baptize children, as I often do as a parish priest, I look at the parents and I say, will you bring this child up in the practice of the faith? And I can't imagine the responsibility that really is for someone like yourself. As a dad, why do you specifically address the role of fathers?
Because like I said, the statistics, and this isn't just about statistics. This is church teaching, right? That St. Paul talks about how the father is the head of the household. So the statistics only back up what the church talks about. St. John Paul II says that the absence of a father causes psychological and moral imbalance. That's in Familiaris Consortio. And the church has been teaching this all along. And so the statistics that I talk about in the book only back up, A, what the church has been teaching, and B, what we see in society in general, not from a spiritual perspective, but just from a regular secular perspective. When the father isn't around, we have all of this sort of chaos that's unleashed onto the world. And November being Catechesis Month. What I would want parishes to start doing is to probably the most important thing is fathers just need to know that the church teaches and studies confirm that they are the primary influence of the faith, the father, and look at the father when you say it. And then I would like to see, weekly or monthly events where it's just the father who is asked to come to the parish and to learn about the faith. And when they say, well, why doesn't the mother have to come? Why don't the children have to come? The answer from the priest needs to be, because it's up to you. It is up to you. And because if you don't understand your responsibility, you're not going to live up to your responsibility. So it needs to be just put out very plainly. You fall away from the faith, Dad, your children are going to fall away from the faith.
Yeah, no, I could not agree with you more. Is there any of the stories in the book that really resonated with you, Tyler?
A lot of great stories. The reason I put John Castillo's story first is because it's the most powerful one. His son, Kendrick Castillo, in May of 2019, rushed the front of his school because a school shooter was about to execute all 23 kids in the classroom. And Kendrick rushed the shooter and was killed in that process. He's the only person who died, and he saved 20 of his classmates' lives that day. And Kendrick did that, John will tell you, because he lived the life of Christ. At the end of his life, he was an example of Christ by giving his life for his friends. And the reason John raised Kendrick to be a strong Catholic young man was because his father, Kendrick's grandfather, raised John to be a strong Catholic man. And that's why I put that one first in the book. And if you read it, it'll be impossible not to cry, but it'll be impossible not to be inspired by what Kendrick did, and be proud of John for raising him to be such a sacrificial man.
And Tyler, we call the family home the domestic church. So the church finds its kind of origin, if you will, right there in the family home. What kind of things do you do as a parent to daily influence your kids in the practice of the faith? You personally. Right.
So I'll tell you some small things that I do. Something happened about 20 minutes ago. My 5-year-old wanted another snack, and I looked and I said no. And because what I've noticed is that kids always want something, and we live in a country right now where we could give our kids everything they wanted all day, and we have to sort of get back to a practice of slowly teaching our children some sort of mortification of the body, some sort of penance where maybe they don't understand it yet, but we're preparing them to endure bodily the spiritual truths of the faith. So they don't get to snack all day. And I'm tough on my children. I'm tough on my 5-year-old. He has to do schoolwork every day. He has to do sports every day. And through that, he's not just binge watching on TV. We live in the consumerism culture is taking over the minds of our children a lot. So I think we just need to be a little bit tougher on our children. Ask our children to get down on their knees and pray at Mass. Take them. I take my 5-year-old to Planned Parenthood with me, and I explain to him that we're going to a place that does something bad, but we're Catholics, so we go and we try and do something good for children at a place that does something bad. And they don't ask too many questions. I mean, that's good enough for them. But we live the faith, right? So we explain that we're Catholic. We pray before meals, and I don't let the school educate my children more than I educate my children. So I don't care if he goes to public school or Catholic school. I am going to be the primary educator. I'm going to pay attention to what he's learning, especially as he gets older. And that doesn't mean I have to pull him out of school, but he's going to get the truth from the eyes of the Catholic Church, from his mom and dad, instead of a public school educator teaching my children what's right and wrong.
All right. Well, Tyler, thank you so much for being with us today. Where can people learn more about your work?
You can go to CatholicFatherBook.com. You can buy the book on Amazon. My website is CatholicFatherBook.com, where you can learn more about the book and more about me.
Tyler, thanks so much for being with us. Keep up the great work.
God bless you guys.
Thanks. God bless you and your family.